Hello, and welcome everyone. Today's video features a complete review guide of the brand new Pan-American Premium Tier 10 Destroyer, La Pampa. Now this video will include background, availability, captain build, and a demonstration how to play this ship with real live gameplay. So quickly starting, historical background, La Pampa is based on a battle class destroyer built in the 1940s. But it does differ considerably from her British counterparts, having enhanced torpedo armament thanks to the installation of a third torpedo launcher and the removal of one main battery gun. Now it is a paper ship of course, but this is the historical background on which this ship is based. It could have eventually been purchased by the government of Argentina that sought to strengthen its navy by purchasing surplus ships from Great Britain and the US after the war. In terms of availability, the Tier 10 Pan-American Destroyer La Pampa will be available for 380 tokens. Now, up to 510 tokens can be earned through random bundles at 999 doubloons each, and up to 100 tokens for coal and up to 20 tokens through combat missions. Now, Wargaming stated there will also be a 20% discount coupon during the first 3 days of the event. So let's move to the recommended captain build. Now, La Pampa is a heavily focused torpedo boat destroyer, having these 3 launchers, a Torpedo Reload Booster, and access to a combat instructions, which is called Covert Consumable Readiness, which we'll cover momentarily. Now, starting with the build, as you can see, I've gone with accuracy for the main guns and torpedo tubes mod 2 for torpedo reload in the upgrades. The captain skills, I have gone with full survivability and full torpedo reload skills, as you can see here on screen. I am using the Joaquim Marquez Lisboa bonus captain, which does give a nice little boost to survivability expert, hence the extra hit points, and eventually the ability to trigger some of its talents, including relentless firing, that can give you a -5% and a -10% to main battery reload and torpedo reload, respectively. So quite a nice little captain to throw on here, should he be available to you. So, La Pampa. Let's start with the armor layout. There's not really much to say about this. It's all very standard 19mm plating everywhere, except the superstructure with its 13mm. Now, these main battery gun turrets are very lightly armored. They only get 6mm of plating, so you can expect these to be knocked out. You should be building accordingly to mitigate this problem as much as possible. However, you will be operating a lot from stealth and smoke screens, so this shouldn't be a major issue. In terms of hit points, the Pampa gets 22,800. And now that is incorporating the bonus to survivability expert you get with the Joaquim Marquez Lisboa captain, so quite nice. Now this is further augmented by having 3 repair parties, which is very nice indeed. You can repair 136 hit points per second with a consumable action time of 28 seconds. This is of course incorporating the India Delta signal flag, and the cooldown on the repair party is 76 seconds. Remember, however, with this covert consumable readiness, you can reduce your consumable prep and reload time by 85%, rendering these cooldown times virtually null and void. So basically, you have your consumables when you need them on call all the time. So let's start with the main battery. Now I have built primarily into torpedoes, but the main battery, it does get a quite respectable 3.3 second reload. Now you do have 4 of these 113mm guns, both mounted 4 in 2 twin mounted super firing turrets. Obviously, you want to be angling forward while shooting, and kiting away can be quite difficult as you do have to show quite significant amounts of broadside while firing at a target while retreating. These guns are quite nice though. You get a max dispersion of 100 meters with a max firing range of 12.3 kilometers. The Pampa can fire both high explosive and armor piercing shells, The high explosive has a max damage of 1700, a 9% fire chance. They can penetrate 19 millimeters of armor and have a shell speed of 746 meters per second. The armor piercing has the exact same shell speed and a max damage of 2100, so 2100 max damage. So quite decent. 3.3 second reload, max firing range of 12.3 kilometers. Primarily, you want to be engaging targets in front of you, and while moving forward is your optimal position for using these guns. Kiting can prove to be quite difficult. The Pampa, however, is not all about the guns. You get some serious torpedo armament in the form of 3 quintuple torpedo launchers. Now these have a max firing range of 10.5 kilometers. They have a max damage of 17,500 with a torpedo speed of 69 knots with this build and a detectability range of 1.3 kilometers. The torpedo reload time, again with this build, is 99.5 seconds. Now, this is seriously augmented by having 3 charges of a torpedo reload booster. Now, what this basically means, if you have your combat instructions ready to go, you can fire 3 full spreads, 15 torps, pop your reload booster, fire again in 5 seconds, fire another 15 torpedoes, pop your combat instructions, and massively boost the reload on the torpedo reload booster, and you have torpedoes up again in virtually no time. Now this can be extremely powerful when faced with a multitude of targets or big groups of targets. It allows you to literally swamp the water with up to 45 torpedoes in a very short period of time. When it comes to dealing with submarines, you get depth charges, quite significant damage, max damage of 5,000. You get 2 charges with 6 bombs per charge and a reload time of 40 seconds. The Pampa now unfortunately does not get access to hydroacoustic search, so you will have to learn to deal with submarines without. In terms of AA defense, the Pampa gets a rating of 52. These AA guns are made up of 3 single-mounted 40mm, 3 twin-mounted 40mm, and the main battery are both dual-purpose. These 2 twin-mounted turrets of 113mm. Now, the continuous average damage is quite low. It's only 129, and the vast majority is medium range, only out to 3.5 kilometers. The Pampa can fire 2 shell explosions per flak salvo, and the action zone of these shell explosions is between 3.5 and 5.8 kilometers, and they have a max damage of 1540. The priority sector reinforcement is 35%, and the max firing range on these guns, just as stated, is 5.8 kilometers. So an AA defense rating of 52. In terms of maneuverability, the base speed is 34 knots. Now you can improve that to 35.7 with the Sierra Mike signal flag. The Pampa gets a turning circle radius of 560 meters and a rudder shift time of 4.2 seconds. In terms of concealment, it's really quite good. 5.8 kilometers, a concealment rating of 96, so you'll be surface detected by enemy ships at 5.8 kilometers and by enemy subs and aircraft at 2.9 kilometers. So this is the La Pampa. Very, very powerful torpedo boat. Now I would highly recommend trying to stay undetected as much as possible and swamping areas like capture points, approaches to capture points, areas between islands, all those spots that usually attract lots of traffic. Now you want to be activating your combat instructions as much as possible, and you can activate this by gaining progress by remaining undetected. Every consecutive 10 seconds you are unspotted or undetected, you gain 5%, and a hit on an enemy ship with a torpedo will grant 25%. So landing torpedoes is the fastest way to fill up this combat instructions progress. Keeping these consumables on a very low cooldown, it not only greatly enhances your survivability by having your repair and smokescreen ready for emergencies, but also your damage output by keeping this Torpedo Reload Booster constantly ready when needed. Very, very strong combination, this. Now, having such a good reload on the guns, I would recommend try to farm damage as much as possible should you have access to the Joachim Marquez bonus commander. 175 hits with your main battery will also give you some significant boosts, including a 5% reload buff to your main battery and a 10% reload buff to your torpedo tubes. So this is not to be sniffed at. Not only do you get the buff to your survivability expert, but you can get some very, very nice buffs to your offensive armament. Once again, the Master and Commander talent, once you've activated your combat instructions twice, this will also increase your ship speed by 5%. And this effect will remain active until the end of the battle. So not only do you get a nice boost in speed, the starting progress for the combat instructions is also improved by 20%. So this is a very, very nice commander should you start triggering these talents. So this is the La Pampa, brand new Pan-American Tier 10 destroyer, heavily focused into its torpedo armament. Very strong torpedo boat. Now, a lot of people will make the argument that torpedo boats can be very difficult to have a viable impact over the, as opposed to gunboat destroyers, but I found that this ship also holds up pretty well fighting enemy destroyers. And that, at the end of the day, is how you're going to have a real impact on winning and losing games. Destroyers, primarily built to fight enemy destroyers and provide DPM support to their fleet. The very low concealment allows you to get that little bit closer, spot enemy targets for your team, allows you to contest capture points. So I think this is a pretty strong destroyer at tier 10. I hope you enjoyed this little preview guide, including the gameplay. If you'd like to see some live gameplay, feel free to come over and visit me on Twitch. You can see the link here on screen. I look forward to seeing you all.
Torpedos a popa. Generador de humo activado. Cortina de humo desplegada. La batalla finaliza en 5 minutos.